After studying this module, you would be able to understand the concept of national income determination, understand money market equilibrium, understand capital market equilibrium, analyze the integration of markets, and identify the criticism of Keynesian economics. So now let us first look at the product market. In a two-sector model, in the product market, we have two entities, the households and the firms. The households are responsible for consumption and for savings. On the other hand, the firms are responsible for production and for investment. However, the plans of the households and the firms may be different. So, in an ex ante sense, there is no coincidence of the two plans and their plans do not coincide. Therefore, there is a problem in the planned or ex ante sense. Let us first understand how the product market operates under such conditions in a two-sector economy. The product market or the goods market depends upon the interplay of forces such as the savings, investment, income and consumption. The savings function, as we know, in the Keynesian assumptions, under Keynesian assumptions, depends upon national income. But the savings increase with respect to income but less than proportionately. That is, the propensity to save is less than 1. The investment function is exogenously given, so we can say that I is equal to f of A, that is autonomous factors. It is exogenously given, it is autonomous and it is fixed. The equilibrium condition in the product market is that saving and investment must be equilibrium. Under equilibrium, they must be equal. The point of equilibrium determines the equilibrium level of saving and investment as well as the main variable that is being determined in the product market, that is national income, and that is why this is known as national income determination. In general, the savings function has a negative intercept minus A and a positive slope which is B. Therefore, the savings function is S is equal to minus A plus By. A denotes the minimum level of consumption and B denotes the marginal propensity to save with respect to income, and it lies between 0 and 1. Graphically, the equilibrium in the product market is depicted with respect to these two functions, the savings function as has already been described and the investment function, which can simply be depicted as a line that is parallel to the x-axis, and let us say that the volume of investment which is autonomous is I0. So, we have a savings function which is S is equal to minus A plus By, which intersects the investment function that is parallel to the x-axis. This results in different situations that can be identified in the product market. We are considering three different levels of income, Y1, Y0 and Y2. We would arrive at Y0, which would be ultimately the equilibrium level of income and which should be determined by the intersection of the savings function and the investment function at point E. So, now let us consider the three levels of income, Y1, Y2 and Y0. At Y1 level of income, the household's income equation would be Y1 is equal to S1 plus C1. Here C1 is the consumption expenditure made by households. But if we observe the figure, then we can notice that at Y1 the savings is S1, which is less than the level of investment which is fixed, which is I0. So savings are less, and therefore from the point of view of the households, the consumption expenditure would be more. On the other hand, if we see the same equation from the point of view of the firms, then Y1 is equal to C1 prime plus I0. Here C1 prime refers to the value of consumption goods produced by the firm sector. So what we can see is that consumers or the households are prepared to spend more on consumption goods, whereas the firms are not prepared for this. So they have produced less in terms of value of consumption goods. So what happens is that the stocks deplete. When the stocks deplete, then this is a signal to the firm sector that they should be producing more. And when they produce more, they employ more. When they employ more, they give more of wages and so on, and the national income increases. So the economy moves from Y1 towards a higher level of income, and this is known as expansion of national income. Now, in similar terms, if we were to observe the national income at Y2 level of income, then the equations for the firms and the households would read as follows. For the households, it would be Y2 is equal to C2 plus S2, and for firms it would be Y2 is equal to C2 prime plus I0. Now in this case at Y2 we have observed that the savings level is greater than the investment. If savings are greater, then it means that households are wanting to spend less on consumption goods. So therefore the expenditure on consumption goods would be less, whereas the value of consumption goods produced in the economy would be more, and therefore there would be a glut in the economy. The stocks would pile up, and this would be a signal to the producers to cut down upon production, and consequently the national income would fall. So starting from the level of income Y1, when there is a mismatch between the plans of producers and consumers, or the firm sector and the household sector, continuously the national income would increase up to a point where there is no divergence between their plans. Similarly, at Y2, the national income would continuously contract till a point is reached. This point is the equilibrium point E. At point E, we can see that savings would be equal to investment. So in an exposed sense, that is, if we see the past year's income, then we would say that saving is necessarily equal to investment. But in an ex ante sense, if we see according to the plans, then it is not necessary that this happens. This would happen only when the plans coincide. So in an ex ante sense, saving would be equal to investment only under equilibrium, and in an exposed sense, saving would always be equal to investment in an ex ante sense. So this is the process of national income determination. We finally arrive at Y0. Y0 is a level of national income at which we would see that the savings function and the investment function intersect each other. Equilibrium is at point E, and saving is exactly equal to investment. Now let us consider the money market under Keynesian assumptions. In the money market, what we see is that the money supply is exogenously given by the central bank. It is not interest elastic, that means it does not change when the rate of interest changes. Therefore, the money supply function you would be able to notice is a vertical line. It is given by M bar. On the x axis we are measuring money supply and money demand. On the y axis we are measuring rate of interest. So, at a given money supply M bar, we now consider what is happening to the money demand equation or the money demand function. The money demand function consists of two parts. The first part is M1, which is the money demand for holding money due to transactions and precautionary purposes. We are aware that the liquidity preference for holding money for transactions and precautionary purposes is a function of national income. Therefore, whenever national income increases, M1 would also increase. It is a positive function of M1 of Y. Now, let us consider a given level of national income Y1. So, at this given level of national income, M1 would be M1 Y1, and again, since M1 does not depend upon rate of interest, the M1 function, as you would notice, is vertical. It is parallel to the y axis. It is not affected by the rate of interest. So, we have a given level of income, a given level of M1, and then we have M2, which is speculative demand for holding money, and we are aware that speculative demand for holding money is negatively related to the rate of interest. So, you would see that M2, which is a function of R, is downward sloping. It is convex to the origin. Now, we simply have to add up M1 and M2 horizontally. When we add up M1 and M2, then we arrive at the money demand function. The distance between the money demand function and the M2 function is nothing but M1, which is a parallel distance because M1 is fixed. The total money demand is MD and it intersects with the money supply at point E. The money supply, as we have said, is M bar, which is given, it is fixed, it is a vertical line. So, the intersection of the money supply and money demand function gives us the point E, which gives us the equilibrium rate of interest R0, and on the x axis money supply is equal to money demand. This is how equilibrium is established in the money market, and in the money market we can see that it is the equilibrium rate of interest which is established according to Keynesian theory. Now, let us briefly consider the capital market. In macroeconomics, in Keynesian economics, the capital market deals with the fixed capital goods. This is not in relation to stock markets, as is very commonly understood. The capital market depends upon the interplay of three factors: the volume of investment or simply investment, the rate of interest, which in this case is the long-term rate of interest, and something known as the marginal efficiency of capital. Marginal efficiency of capital is the expectation of return from a long-term investment project, an industrial project for instance. Okay. The investment function is a unique function, or the capital market is a unique market, because here, unlike other markets, we do not have two functions. Normally, we have seen that in the product market, we have two functions. We have the the savings function and the investment function. In the money market, we have the money demand function and the money supply function. Whereas when we look at the capital market, then we find that there is essentially only one function, which is the investment function. The investment function is a function of R and MEC. MEC, as we have said, is the long-term expectation of return. Graphically, therefore, the product market equilibrium can be depicted with the help of a single function, which is the investment function, which is downward sloping. On the y-axis, we have the rate of interest. On the x-axis, we are measuring volume of investment. By the way, the rate of interest is not determined in the capital market, unlike what the classicals thought. In the case of classicals, they believed that the rate of interest depends upon saving and investment. In the case of Keynesian economics, the rate of interest depends upon money demand and money supply. We have just seen how the rate of interest is determined in the money market. Now, this rate of interest, which is determined in the money market, is then in a sense borrowed by the capital market, because it does not have a rate of interest of its own. So, in this sense, rate of interest is exogenous as far as the capital market is concerned. The only difference is that in the money market, the rate of interest is the short-term rate of interest, and in the capital market, it is the long-term rate of interest. There is a theory which tells us about the relationship between the short-term rate of interest and the long-term rate of interest. Briefly, this theory says that the short-term and long-term rates of interest would always move in the same direction. Taking advantage of this theory, we would examine in further analysis how the money market and the capital market are related to each other. For the present, all that we need to know is that along the investment function, which is downward sloping, if the rate of interest goes down from R2 to R0, then the volume of investment would shift from I1 to I0, given the fact that the level of the investment function is constant. The level of the investment function is constant if the autonomous part of the investment function remains constant. That is, the intercept on the y-axis remains constant. The slope of the investment function, on the other hand, would imply that for a fall in the rate of interest, the volume of investment will increase and there is a movement along the given investment function. This is how the capital market behaves. Now, coming back to developing a larger picture of the economy under the Keynesian system, we are now considering three markets: the money market, the capital market and the product market. Incidentally, there is another law which is known as the law of general equilibrium, given to us by Walras. So, the Walrasian general equilibrium theorem tells us that when n out of n markets, n minus 1 markets are in equilibrium, then automatically the nth market would also be in equilibrium. The nth market in our case, out of 4 markets, 3 markets we are considering, and the 4th market which we are not considering or ignoring by virtue of the Walrasian general equilibrium theorem is the labor market. So, for the time being, ignoring the labor market, let us consider the relationship between the 3 markets, that is the money market, the capital market and the product market. Now, this is a rather complex diagram which is known as the integration of markets. We are integrating these 3 markets together. As I have said, in each market one particular variable is determined. Let us consider in the money market the rate of interest is determined, in the capital market the volume of investment is determined, and in the product market or the goods market the level of income is determined. First of all, let us look at what is happening in the money market. To begin with, we have a given money supply M bar. When the given money supply is M bar and there is a given level of income Y1 in the economy, or simply let us say Y in the economy, then what happens is that the money in the money market M1 depends upon Y. For a given level of income, M1 is known, the money supply is M bar, and at this point we can notice that the rate of interest would be R0. Now, suppose at this point what happens is that if we borrow this rate of interest R0 and take it into the capital market, then when the rate of interest is R0, the volume of investment would be I0. As we have explained, the level of the investment function is II is given. So, at this volume of investment, if we now proceed to the product market, which is given in the fourth quadrant, there what we have done essentially over here is that in the fourth quadrant we have taken the Y axis of the product market and placed it along the X axis of the capital market. That means that the product market diagram which we considered earlier has been turned through 90 degrees, and here therefore on the negative Y axis we are measuring national income, and on the X axis, on the positive X axis, which is between the first quadrant and the fourth quadrant, here we are measuring saving and investment. There is no difference in the savings function as well as the investment function. So, for a given level of investment I0, what we can see is where the savings function intersects with the investment function, the level of income is Y0. Now, suppose we consider a contraction in the money supply from M bar to M bar prime, and when there is a contraction, then what happens is that in the money market, let us reconsider the money market equilibrium. In the money market, the rate of interest is now R1. At R1, what happens is that once again we borrow the rate of interest from the money market and take it into the capital market. The rate of interest is R1. The given investment function II, the level of the investment function is given, and the volume of investment is I1. At I1, which is a lower level of investment, the level of income is Y1. So, what we can see is that all the three markets, money market, capital market and the product market, are integrally related to each other, and this is what we call integration of markets. However, there is a problem. The problem is that when the national income was Y1, M1, which is a part of the money market, was given. But now if we consider a new rate of interest, a new level of money supply, then what happens is that the level of income now becomes some other level of income. Let us say we started with Y0 and the money supply was M bar and the rate of interest was R1. So, now at R1 the volume of investment was Y1. The volume of investment was I1 and the level of income was Y1. Whereas at the previous rate of interest R0, the volume of investment is I0 and the level of income is Y0. So, as the level of income changes, M1, which depends upon the level of income, would also change. And if this happens, then the money demand function would also change in the money market. Although this has not been shown in the diagram, you can imagine that the money demand function would contract if we are moving from Y0 to Y1, and it would expand if we are moving from Y1 to Y0 in the product market. This way, there is a chain of reaction. There is a chain reaction that we start from the product market, go to the money market, this affects the rate of interest, go to the capital market, this again affects the level of income. Once back we come to the money market, this again affects the rate of interest, and this whole chain is endless. So, endlessly what happens is that the three markets keep interacting with each other, and through this interaction, what happens is that there is no fixed level of either rate of interest, volume of investment, or the level of income. Therefore, we now try to understand what the problem, from where this problem is arising. So, let us now consider the criticism of Keynesian economics. While there are other points of view also about Keynesian economics, but one of the main criticisms of Keynesian economics is that the Keynesian system is based on sequential analysis. That means markets keep impacting each other and there is no general equilibrium in the entire economy which can take place at a given point of time. Now, this notion is known as simultaneous equilibrium or general equilibrium, where all markets interact with each other, but they result in one given level of national income, rate of interest, volume of investment, and all other variables are given at a given point of time. To make it very crisp and clear, basically we are here talking about a system by which the joint determination of rate of interest and income, national income, can take place. So, the most widely known criticism of Keynesian economics is that it is based on a sequential analysis and it does not lead to general equilibrium. Therefore, further analysis requires a different kind of an approach which is known as the ISLM approach, and there are various names with which this analysis is called. We call it synthesis between classical and Keynes, joint determination of interest rate and national income, general equilibrium analysis. It is also known as the Hicks-Hansen approach. Now, in summary, in a nutshell, now let us see what we have done. First of all, we have considered a two-sector economy, that is, in the product market we have firms and households, and it is through the interaction of the savings function and the investment function in an ex ante sense that we arrive at an equilibrium. There are two statements which describe the state in the product market. One says that saving is always equal to investment, necessarily equal to investment in the exposed sense. The other says that saving is equal to investment only under equilibrium, and this is in the ex ante sense. In the money market, the money supply is fixed, it is exogenous. Money demand depends upon income and rate of interest, and the money demand function and money supply function intersect, and this gives rise to the equilibrium rate of interest. According to Keynes, it is the money demand and money supply which determine rate of interest in the money market. And now we consider the capital market. As we have said, the capital market is for long-term investment, project investment, and here we have a single equation which says that investment would be determined where marginal efficiency of capital or expectation, long-term expectation of return is equal to the long-term rate of interest. When we considered integration of markets, we saw that in the money market, the M1 depends upon level of income. This determines the level of money demand. Money demand intersects with money supply. The rate of interest is determined in the money market. But things don't stop here. The rate of interest is a short-term rate of interest which is borrowed by the capital market, and it acts there as a long-term rate of interest. The given level of the investment function determines a certain volume of investment. This in turn is borrowed by the product market. It is exogenous to the product market. In the product market, for a given level of investment, we have a given level of income. However, this income would again go and affect M1 in the money market. Once again, if M1 changes, money demand changes, the rate of interest changes once again, and this chain goes on forever. So, one of the main criticisms of Keynesian theory, of Keynesian economics, Keynesian macroeconomics is that it is a sequential approach and it does not allow us to have a general equilibrium. It does not allow us to have simultaneous equilibrium in end markets. Another consideration that needs to be brought to the fore here is that we have used the Walrasian general equilibrium theorem, which says that if n out of n markets, if n minus 1 markets are in equilibrium, then the nth market would also be in equilibrium. And the nth market in our case is out of 4 markets: product market, capital market, money market and labor market. We choose to drop or to ignore the 4th market, which is the labor market. In this way, we have analyzed through Keynesian economics the national income determination, determination of rate of interest in money supply through money supply and money demand, determination of volume of investment, and then finally an integration of all the 3 markets. In fact, it implies an integration of all the 4 markets.